Here at Wenyeji TV, we are dedicated to bringing you in-depth coverage of the latest news, events, and stories from around the world. Our team of passionate journalists, reporters, and documentary filmmakers work tirelessly to provide you with accurate, unbiased, and thought-provoking content.
This is Wenyeji TV and I am Mike James. Much appreciation to our executive producer, JW James Witaka. Today we focus on the political crisis in Niger, West Africa. The Niger coup, a story of power, politics, and protest. Niger, a landlocked country in West Africa, has a history of political instability and military coups. Since its independence from France in 1960, it has experienced 5 coups, the most recent one in July 2023. What led to this latest upheaval? What were the motives and grievances of the coup plotters? And what are the implications for the country and the region? The story begins with the 2021 presidential election, which was held as a milestone for Niger's democracy. For the first time, an elected president, Mahamadou Issoufou, handed over power to another elected president, Mohamed Bazoum, who was his former interior minister and the candidate of the ruling party, PNDS Teraya. Bazoum won the election with 55.75% of the vote, defeating Mahamane Ousmane, a former president and the candidate of the opposition coalition, Adia Changi. However, the election was marred by allegations of fraud and irregularities by the opposition, which rejected the results and called for peaceful protests. The protests turned violent in some parts of the country, especially in Zinda and Tahua regions, where Ousmane had strong support. The security forces cracked down on the protesters, killing at least 2 people and injuring dozens more. The election also exposed the deep ethnic divisions in Niger, which has a population of about 23 million people belonging to various ethnic groups. Bazoum is from the Zama Songhai ethnic group, which dominates the western part of the country and the political elite. Ousmane is from the Hausa ethnic group, which is the largest in Niger and mainly inhabits the central and eastern regions. The Tuareg and Fulani ethnic groups, which are mostly nomadic and have been marginalized by successive governments, also supported Ousmane. The ethnic tensions were further inflamed by Bazoum's controversial decision to appoint Mohamed Bazoum Oumoudou Mahamadou as his prime minister. Oumoudou Mahamadou is Bazoum's cousin and a former chief of staff to Issoufou. He is also from the Zama Songhai ethnic group. The opposition accused Bazoum of nepotism and favoritism and demanded a more inclusive and representative government. The second factor that contributed to the coup was the deteriorating security situation in Niger, which faces multiple threats from various armed groups operating in its territory and across its borders. Niger is part of the Sahel region, which has been plagued by Islamist insurgency, ethnic violence, banditry, human trafficking and drug smuggling for years. Niger shares borders with 7 countries, some of which are also unstable or in conflict, such as Libya, Mali, Nigeria, and Burkina Faso. Niger has been a key ally of France and the United States in their counter-terrorism efforts in the region. It hosts about 5,000 French troops as part of Operation Barkhane, a regional anti-jihadist mission that also involves Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Burkina Faso. It also hosts about 800 US troops and several drone bases as part of Operation Enduring Freedom, Trans-Sahara, (EFTS), a US-led initiative to combat terrorism and promote stability in North and West Africa. However, despite the presence of these foreign forces and their assistance to Niger's military, Niger has not been able to prevent or contain the attacks by various militant groups. These include Al-Qaeda in the Islamic Maghreb, the QIM, the Islamic State in the Greater Sahara, RIS-GIST, Islamic State West Africa Province, ISWAP, Ansarul Islam, and Boko Haram. Some of these attacks have been deadly and spectacular, such as the ambush near Tongo Tongo village in October 2017 that killed 4 US soldiers and 5 Nigerian soldiers. The attack on Inat's military base in December 2019 that killed 71 Nigerian soldiers. The attack on Coup Giraffe Reserve in August 2020 that killed 6 French aid workers and 2 Nigerians. The twin attacks on Chinagadra and Telabari military bases in January 2021 that killed over 100 Nigerian soldiers. The attack on Banibangu village in March 2021 that killed at least 137 civilians. These attacks have eroded public confidence in Bazoum's government and its ability to protect its citizens and sovereignty. They have also sparked resentment among some segments of Niger's military, especially those who feel neglected or exploited by their superiors or foreign partners. The third factor that influenced the coup was the growing influence of Russia and its private military contractor, Wagner Group, in Niger and the region. Russia has been expanding its presence and interests in Africa in recent years, seeking to challenge the dominance of France and the US and to gain access to natural resources, markets, and geopolitical leverage. Russia has established military cooperation agreements with several African countries, such as the Central African Republic, Sudan, Mali, and Mozambique. It has also deployed Wagner Group, a shadowy mercenary outfit that is allegedly linked to the Kremlin, to provide security and training services to some of these countries. Wagner Group has been accused of human rights violations, illicit activities, and meddling in local politics. In Niger, Russia has been cultivating ties with some political and military figures, especially those who are opposed to Bazoum and his allies. Russia has also been supporting the IPOB, a separatist movement that seeks to create an independent state of Biafra in southeastern Nigeria. IPOB has a large diaspora community in Niger, and some of its members have been involved in violent protests against Bazoum's government. According to some reports, Wagner Group has been operating in Niger since 2020, providing security and training to some Nigerian military units, especially those loyal to General Abdurrahman Tiani, the head of the Presidential Guard and the leader of the coup. Tiani is said to be close to Russia and IPOB, and has expressed dissatisfaction with Bazoum's policies and performance. On July 26, 2023, Tiani and his loyalists launched a coup against Bazoum's government. They stormed the presidential palace in Niamey, the capital city, and detained Bazoum and his prime minister. They also took control of the state television and radio stations, and announced the formation of a military junta called the National Council for the Safeguard of the Homeland, the CNSP. Tiani declared himself the head of state and said that the coup was necessary to save Niger from the gradual and inevitable demise caused by Bazoum's incompetence, corruption, and nepotism. He accused Bazoum of rigging the 2021 election, violating the constitution, failing to address the security crisis, alienating the ethnic groups, then serving the interests of foreign powers. Tiani also announced the suspension of the constitution, the dissolution of the government and the parliament, the closure of the borders, and the imposition of a curfew. He said that he would lead a transitional government that would organize free and fair elections within a year. He also warned against any external interference or intervention in Niger's affairs. The coup was met with mixed reactions from different segments of Niger's society and the international community. Some people welcomed the coup as a necessary change that would bring stability and development to Niger. They celebrated in the streets of Niamey and other cities, waving Russian flags and chanting Wagner. They also expressed support for IPOB and its leader, Nnamdi Kanu, who had been arrested by Nigerian authorities in June 2023. Other people condemned the coup as a setback for Niger's democracy and a threat to its unity and sovereignty. They denounced Tiani as a traitor and a puppet of Russia. They also expressed solidarity with Bazoum and his government, calling for their release and reinstatement. The international community also reacted strongly to the coup. The United Nations Security Council issued a statement demanding the immediate restoration of constitutional order in Niger. The African Union suspended Niger's membership and imposed sanctions on Tiani and his associates. ECOWAS also suspended Niger's membership and threatened to use military force if Tiani did not comply with its ultimatum. France and the US also condemned the coup and called for Bazoum's release. They expressed concern about Russia's role in Niger and its implications for regional security. They also reaffirmed their commitment to support Niger's fight against terrorism. Russia, on the other hand, welcomed the coup as a positive development that will enhance Niger's stability and sovereignty. It denied any involvement in or support for Tiani or Wagner Group. It also warned against any foreign interference or intervention in Niger's internal affairs. The aftermath. The coup plunged Niger into a political crisis that had serious consequences for its security, economy, and society. The following events occurred after the coup. Bazoum refused to resign or recognize Tiani as the legitimate leader of Niger. He remained under house arrest at the presidential palace where he continued to communicate with his supporters and allies through social media. Kiani faced resistance from some factions of Niger's military, especially those loyal to Issoufou or Bazoum. He also faced protests from some civil society groups, political parties, trade unions, and religious leaders who demanded his departure. ECOWAS deployed a standby force of 5,000 troops from Nigeria, Ghana, Senegal, and Benin to Niger's border regions. It also imposed an G blockade on Niger, cutting off its access to trade, aid, and remittances. France withdrew its troops. What is the role France and US in the conflict? The role of France and US in Niger is complex and controversial as both countries have strategic and economic interests in the country and the region. France is the former colonial power of Niger, and it still maintains a strong influence and presence in the country. France is the main trading partner and donor of Niger, and it also provides military and security assistance to Niger. France has about 5,000 troops stationed in Niger as part of Operation Barkhane, a regional anti-jihadist mission that also involves Chad, Mali, Mauritania, and Burkina Faso. France also relies on Niger for its uranium supply, as Niger is the world's fourth largest producer of uranium, which is used for nuclear power and weapons. However, France's role in Niger is also resented by many Nigerians, who see it as a form of neocolonialism and exploitation. France has been accused of meddling in Niger's internal affairs, supporting corrupt and authoritarian regimes, and profiting from Niger's resources at the expense of its development. France has also faced criticism for its military intervention in the region, which some argue has worsened the security situation and caused civilian casualties. Many Nigerians have expressed anti-French sentiment and called for the withdrawal of French troops from their country. The US is another major partner and ally of Niger, especially in the fight against terrorism and instability in the region. The US provides economic and humanitarian aid to Niger, as well as military and security assistance. The US has about 800 troops and several drone bases in Niger as part of Operation Enduring Freedom, Trans-Sahara, or EFTS, a US-led initiative to combat terrorism and promote stability in North and West Africa. The US also supports Niger's participation in the Trans-Saharan Counter-Terrorism Partnership (TSCTP), a regional program that aims to enhance the capacity and cooperation of African countries to counter violent extremism. However, the US role in Niger is also controversial and problematic, as it has been involved in some incidents that have sparked outrage and distrust among Nigerians. One of these incidents was the ambush near Tongo Tongo village in October 2017 that killed 4 US soldiers and 5 Nigerian soldiers. The ambush exposed the extent of US military operations in Niger, which were largely unknown to the public and the parliament. The ambush also raised questions about the legality, accountability, and effectiveness of US military actions in Niger. Another incident was the revelation that US soldiers had been training some of the coup plotters who overthrew President Bazoum in July 2023. The revelation cast doubt on the US commitment to democracy and human rights in Niger. In summary, France and US have played a significant role in Niger, but their role has also been challenged by some nationalist, anti-colonial and anti-imperialist forces in the country and the region. Their role has also been affected by the coup that ousted President Bazoum, who was seen as a close ally of both countries. The coup has created a political crisis that has divided the international community over how to respond. While France has refused to engage with the junta and supported ECOWAS's threat of military intervention, the US has dispatched an envoy to meet with the junta leaders and held back from officially declaring the coup a coup. The coup has also exposed the deep ethnic divisions in Niger, as well as the growing influence of Russia and its private military contractor, Wagner Group, in the country. How is the global political supremacy battle between Russia and United States/France fuel the conflict? The global supremacy battle between the US and France on one side and Russia on the other side is fueling the conflict in various ways, such as providing military and security assistance to different sides of the conflict. The US and France have been supporting the government of Ukraine against Russia's invasion, while Russia has been backing the separatist forces in eastern Ukraine and Crimea. The US and France have also been providing training, weapons, intelligence, and logistical support to some African countries that are facing threats from Islamist militants such as Nigeria, Mali, and Burkina Faso. Russia, on the other hand, has been deploying its private military contractor, Wagner Group, to provide security and training services to some African countries that are allied with Russia or opposed to the West, such as Libya, the Central African Republic and ethnic, competing for economic and political influence in the region. The US and France have been trying to maintain their economic and commercial engagements in Africa, which is a rich source of natural resources, markets, and geopolitical leverage. The US and France have also been promoting democracy, human rights, and good governance in the region. Russia, however, has been expanding its presence and interests in Africa in recent years, seeking to challenge the dominance of the US and France and to gain access to natural resources, markets, and geopolitical leverage. Russia has also been offering alternatives to countries that have grown disgruntled with Western diplomatic partnership. Meddling in local politics and elections. The US and France have been accused of interfering in the internal affairs of some countries in the region, such as supporting or opposing certain candidates or parties, or imposing sanctions or conditions on aid or trade. Russia has also been accused of meddling in local politics and elections, such as spreading disinformation, hacking or influencing social media, or supporting or opposing certain candidates or parties. Creating or exploiting ethnic, religious, or ideological divisions. The US and France have been criticized for favoring or neglecting certain ethnic, religious, or ideological groups in the region, such as supporting or marginalizing the Tuareg or Fulani in Mali, or the Zama Songhai or Hausa in Niger. Russia has also been blamed for creating or exploiting ethnic, religious, or ideological divisions in the region, such as supporting or inciting the IPOB separatist movement in Nigeria, or the Tigray rebel group in Ethiopia. These are some of the ways that the global supremacy battle between the US and France on one side and Russia on the other side is fueling the conflict in the region. The conflict has serious consequences for the security, stability, and development of the region and its people. It also requires a peaceful and cooperative solution that respects the sovereignty and interests of all parties involved. This is Wenyeji TV and I am Mike James. Much appreciation to our executive producer, JW James Witaka.
Here at Wenyeji TV, we are dedicated to bringing you in-depth coverage of the latest news, events, and stories from around the world. Our team of passionate journalists, reporters, and documentary filmmakers work tirelessly to provide you with accurate, unbiased, and thought-provoking content.